Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. Before I begin, I should note that I'll be splitting my time with the Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville. I wish to also take this opportunity to say hello to my wife Rose and our daughters Eliana and Natalia, who are watching from our home in Vaughan. I would also like to thank the voters of Vaughan-Woodbridge for placing their trust in me. As a new member, it is a real honour to be here to offer my thoughts in the throne speech on behalf of the people of Vaughan-Woodbridge. But before I do, it's important to add some context to my remarks to explain why I'm here today. You see, Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the Prime Minister said that the throne speech was about what matters most for the people that matter the most. I think that by delivering a throne speech with an emphasis on giving a hand up to students, seniors, communities and families, this government is setting out a plan for our future and for the future of our children. Mr. Speaker, 50 years ago, my grandparents left southern Italy with nothing but what they could carry. They arrived at Pier 21 in Halifax with only a strong work ethic and a desire for a better future for their 7 children. One of those children, my mother Vincenza, married my father Rocco and set out to build a life together. They worked hard and sacrificed every day. They transformed their entrepreneurial spirit and drive into a good and productive life because Canada allowed them to do it. They worked hard and Canada provided the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I am concerned that the kind of opportunities my parents and I had may not be within the reach of my daughters. As a father and a husband, I'm eager to make sure that my 2 wonderful daughters, Eliana and Natalia, grow up and have the chance to succeed. Certainly my wife Rose and I have worked hard to provide for all children, but like many families across Canada, a helping hand from government that cares would make all the difference. Now I understand there are those who would have us believe that hard work alone is enough to guarantee success, but that's not true. Hard work is a big part of it, but so is opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this is why I ran for office. It's why I am happy to support this throne speech, because it promises opportunity for those who are willing to work hard. Most members here would agree that families and communities are the building blocks of this nation. And I am immensely proud to be here representing the families of Vaughan-Woodbridge. But for too long, families and communities have been missing out. Better is always possible, and it's time to put real people on the road to real change. Change for the better, and that starts now. Before I continue, I should again take a moment to thank the people of Vaughan-Woodbridge for their trust and support. This is my first opportunity to speak as a member of this House, but I temper each of my comments with the input and support that I have received from those I represent. And I thank them for their help, for their support, and for their trust. It's important for my constituents to know that this throne speech speaks to the priorities that are important to people living on Chancellor, on Davos, on Maria Antonia, and everywhere in between. This is not a throne speech written in Ottawa. Instead, it's a throne speech that takes its inspiration from the coffee shops, the kitchen table, and the workplaces of this great country. This throne speech is for all Canadians. The focus of this new government is on good jobs, safe streets, and opportunity for all. And I say to the people of Vaughan-Woodbridge, these are your priorities, and they are mine too. You see, last week, Mr. Speaker, this government delivered a throne speech that focused the entirety of its energy on the middle class, people like those living in my riding. This government recommitted to helping low-income seniors, students, families, and workers across Canada. It committed to using every mechanism at its disposal to create jobs, to improve services, and to restoring Canada's glory for all citizens. The middle class hasn't had a decent raise in years, and it's time for our working families and the unemployed to catch a break. It's time to again create a place where hard work can and will spark opportunity that delivers prosperity to everyone. This is what real change looks like, and it's precisely what the government wants to achieve. Now, I understand the critics to my left. I've heard them say that government should stand back and let the free market take over. I reject this hands-off approach, because it ignores those at the bottom end of our income scale. Mr. Speaker, certainly the world of international finance is not one that I'm a stranger to. I've worked on Wall Street and Bay Street for nearly 25 years. I know the economy grows only with a strong middle class. Instead of sitting back, this government is doing what it can to grow the middle class, to invest in infrastructure to alleviate gridlock that is choking our economy, to provide a clean environment, and to strengthen retirement security for all. These are goals, that we can and should all get behind. Not because they are liberal commitments, but because they will strengthen us all. Canadians elected a government to bring us together. Canada is strong because of our differences, not in spite of them. It is also true that the new Canada Child Benefit will direct substantial help to those who need it the most. And I am proud of this part of our platform. The new Canada Child Benefit will provide increased benefits to nine out of every 10 families in Canada. The benefits will be tax-free. And most importantly, the benefit will lift 300,000 children out of poverty. But why is this important? Why not continue to pursue the short-sighted policies of the past? Why not allow the markets to decide everything? Mr. Speaker, quite simply, there are too many Canadians who work 2 or 3 jobs with little benefits, and they still live in poverty. To make matters worse, public infrastructure is crumbling, the manufacturing sector is shrinking, household debt is skyrocketing, and the cost of basic essentials continues to rise. Mr. Speaker, these things are putting unimaginable pressure on the people I represent, on families, on students, and on seniors. And this throne speech is trying to set things right. Mr. Speaker, this is the first debate of many, but it is tremendously important because it will set the tone for everything that comes next. New investments in public transit, green infrastructure, social infrastructure, and secure pensions each promise real and meaningful change for the residents that I was elected to serve. With this in mind, and with my wife Rose and our 2 daughters, Eliana and Natalia, watching, I'm excited to support this throne speech, not just as a document, but as a plan for real change. I'm pleased to vote in support of this blueprint for tomorrow because of what it represents for seniors, for students, for families, and workers in my riding, and ridings in every part of Canada. Thank you for this time, Mr. Speaker, and may God always bless Canada.
Before we proceed to questions and comments, I erred in recognizing the Honourable Member for Vaughan-Woodbridge ahead of the Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend. And so we will come back to that order after we do questions and comments. We'll go to the Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend, after which we'll then go to the Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville. And so again, I apologize, particularly to the Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend and to the House indulgence. I hope that that change in the order will be acceptable. And now we'll go to questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Member for, the Honourable Member for, I knew this just a moment ago, Essex. The Honourable Member for Essex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to congratulate the member from Vaughan-Woodbridge on his first speech here in the House. He mentions the middle class. He mentions the tax cut that the Liberals have offered. I would like to say that the middle class will still not get a raise, as the member indicated, with tax plans that leave out 70% of Canadians. He mentions the coffee shops. These are the places in my riding where the working class people gather, and they will no doubt be asking the Liberal government why 70% of Canadians are being left out of the tax changes that they've proposed. Why don't they get a break as well? What will this member tell them, or does he only represent the 30% that he worked with on Bay Street?
The Honourable Member for Vaughan-Woodbridge.
I thank the Honourable Member from Windsor on her question. I also wish to express my ongoing support for the auto industry that is so important for southwestern Ontario and all of Ontario and our manufacturing footprint. I would like to add that in our platform, we contained a number of measures. And one of those measures which I spoke to in my earlier comments was with regards to the new Canada Child Benefit. If you look at and read from such sources as the Caledon Institute, this new child benefit that will be arriving hopefully next year will be tax-free to families in Canada. Will provide 9 out of every 10 families with increased benefits and will lift 300,000 children out of poverty. I think that's great news for families in Canada. Thank you.
Seems I'm doing everything backwards here this afternoon. Now we'll go to the official opposition and questions and comments. And the Honourable Member for Durham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It is our final day of 2015, so we'll all give you a bit of a slack. You do an exceptional job in that chair, and it's appreciated on all sides. And you'll be giving me a little extra time because I just gave you the shout-out. So I'd like to congratulate the member from Vaughan-Woodbridge on his first speech and for his passion to serve the public. But what I find most ironic with this government, Mr. Speaker, is with the finance minister in particular and with this member with his experience on Bay Street and Wall Street is the deficit that is now running out of control. Hopes that it will be somewhere between $10 and $20 billion per year. Would that member not agree with me when I say that a deficit is either one of two things? It's either future tax increases or it's future cuts. So if this government is sincere about getting to a balanced budget by the end of their mandate, they will have to do one of those two things: raise taxes dramatically or cut services. So I'd ask this member what he favors, higher taxes or cuts in services.
Member for Vaughan-Woodbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to my honourable colleague from Ajax, or Durham, excuse me, for that question. Mr. Speaker, it is a bit rich for this government here. It is a bit rich for my member to address the word on deficits and debt when this government in the last 10 years added $150 billion to our national debt and took a $15 billion surplus and moved it into a deficit position before the great financial recession even set in. So while I will state this, we are in a very low interest rate environment. And my humble advice would be for the government to undertake strategic investments in infrastructure to help grow our economy. And with that, our debt to GDP ratio continues to decline and will decline under this government, and we will balance the budget, as we've indicated, at the end of the 4-year period. Thank you, sir.
We have time for a brief question. Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader. That's on questions and comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, the member, and I congratulate him on just a fantastic speech and just recognizing his family back home and so forth. But one of the things I noticed is he picked up on the important point of the automobile industry. And I'm wondering if he might want to provide further comment on the importance of the automotive industry for the province of Ontario, in fact, all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan-Woodbridge.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As someone who's worked in finance for 25 years and covered the auto sector for the last 15, it's close to my heart and it's something that we need to support within this country. We need to maintain those jobs here in Canada, and our government will do everything we can through consultation with our partners on the automotive OEM base, the auto suppliers, and the small parts manufacturers that are littered throughout southwestern Canada to make sure we ensure those jobs are maintained here and we maintain a very strong, robust global auto industry. We need those jobs, and our government is dedicated to ensure that those jobs remain in Canada and we can grow the OEM base, the supplier base. And that is very important, and we will go forward with that. Thank you, sir.
I have the honor